Hi everyone, welcome to the YouTube channel of SVSU Math and Physics Tutoring Center. This is Ajay, and today in this video we'll learn how to find the least common denominator, in short LCD, when we are working with two or more rational monomials. Before we jump into the actual problems, let's first discuss what monomials are. So monomials are algebraic expressions having exactly one term. For examples, 2, 7x, 5y squared over g. As you could see here, we can have two or more numerals or variables in the form of product or division, but we can't have two or more numerals or variables in the form of a sum or difference to create a monomial. So these three can be considered as monomials. If we have two unlike terms in a polynomial, then the polynomial would be called a binomial. For example, 2 minus 3x, 5 plus a over 3. These expressions have two terms, so these are binomials. If an expression have three unlike terms, then we call it a trinomial. For example, a plus b minus 3, x plus y minus g cubed over 2. These are the examples of trinomials since they have three unlike terms. If we have more than three terms in an algebraic expression, then the polynomial is called a polynomial in n terms. For example, let's say if we had here plus b squared minus c. So here in this new polynomial, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 terms. So we would call this as a polynomial in 5 terms. Now, let me erase all of these examples before we move on to how we would be finding the least common denominator. So the first step would be to rewrite the denominators in the given polynomials. So here we have the first denominator is 7x squared and the second denominator is 22x. Now the second step would be to factor out these denominators. So I'm gonna go ahead and factor these out. So 7 times x would be the factor of the first denominator for the first problem, and for the second denominator would be having 2 times 11 times x. Now the next step would be to find the factors that's being repeated the largest number of times. So here in our problem we have this x is common between those two denominators. So we'll say, okay, the least common denominator would be, here we have x is common, so I'm gonna go ahead and write x. Now we don't have any common term between these two denominators, so we'll rewrite the remaining terms as well. So here we have 7 times 2 times 11. So 7 times 2 times 11, and we also have one remaining x here, so times x, which gives us 7 times 2 times 11 would be 154, and then we have x times x, which is x squared. So the least common denominator for the given pair of monomials for the first problem would be 154 x squared. Now let's move on to the second problem. We would be applying the same procedure here in this problem as well. So here the first denominator would be 15 m squared, and as you can see here we have three monomials here in this problem. So the second denominator would be 9 n squared m, and the last one has 5 m times p. Now I'm gonna go ahead and factor this out. So it's gonna be 3 times 5 times m times n. For the second denominator, we'll have 3 times 3, and since we have n squared, we would write this as n times m. For the last one, we'd write this as 5 times m times p. Now I'm gonna go ahead and look for the common factors among these three terms. So here, as you could see, we have here m is common among all these three denominators. So I'm gonna rewrite this m here, m. Now we don't have any other factors that's common among these three denominators. So we'd be looking for the factors that's common between any two denominators. So here we have n is common between the first and the second denominator. So I'm gonna go ahead and write this n here. And we have one remaining n here. So I'm gonna go ahead and write this remaining n as well. Now we also have 5 that's being repeated 2 times. Here we have 5 and then 5. So I'm gonna go ahead and write this 5 since it has 2 number of repeats. We also have 3 that's being repeated 2 times. So I'm gonna go ahead and write 3. Now we have 3, one more 3 here. So I'm gonna say, okay, times 3. Now we don't have anything common between these denominators, so we'll just rewrite the remaining terms. So here we have 1m, and then we have 1p over here. That includes all of the given factors. Now we'll go ahead and find the product of all these factors. So firstly for the constants, we have 5 times 3 times 3, which is 45. So I'm gonna go ahead and write 45. Then we have 2 m's, so I'm gonna say m squared. We have 2n as well, so I'm gonna say n squared. And then we have 1p, so I'm gonna say p. That's 45 times m squared times n squared times p is the least common denominator for the given three monomials in the second problem. So basically what we did is we rewrote the denominators for the given monomials, and we factored the denominators out, and we looked for the factors that's being repeated the highest number of times among the given denominators. And then we multiply those common factors with the remaining factors which do not have any common factor with another denominator, and we multiplied all those common and remaining factors together to get the least common denominator. Thank you for sticking to the video with me.